What is up, everybody? It is episode 2 of the Empire Hour podcast. Um, and I think today, I'm actually going to be doing this episode all by myself. I'm Sammy, for those of you who do not know. Um, and I think the reason why I wanted to do this episode alone today was because I really wanted to take you guys on a journey of, you know, kind of like what my story is and like what my background is and the story of how. Um, Empire Training Academy um, essentially came alive. And, you know, a lot of people have asked me like what like my background is, how did I get to this point? So I thought that this would be a good platform in order to, in order to do that. So, a little background information about myself. I have always been involved in either sports or fitness, growing up. I was a college baseball player. Um, and essentially, what happened was after I got done playing college baseball, I still had 2 years total left of school. So I needed a job. And, I knew that I never wanted to be a person to sit, like behind a desk all day. I knew I never wanted to be, in a suit and tie all day. I didn't want to be, you know, going on the train all day, going, to and from like Manhattan or, like another big city. Um, so that's how I got introduced, to the group fitness industry as a whole. My mom was a member at Orange Theory, and there was one day where she had approached me and said, "Hey, I think you would really enjoy this job. You remind me a lot like my Orange Theory coach, and I think it would be a great compliment to what you're doing in school now." And back then, like I had no idea what Orange Theory was. I knew that it was, like some sort of group fitness experience, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was. Um, I think it was funny because I actually went on the interview thinking that I was interviewing for a position at the front desk, and I didn't know that I was being interviewed for a coach. And for those of you who don't know me, I grew up with a really bad stutter, like to my speech, and most group uh, fitness coaches, like will always have a microphone on and everything like that. And I never thought that I'd be able to do it. It was really hard for me to imagine myself doing that at that time because around the time I was 23, I'm 29 now. Um, like I still had I would say like a pretty bad, stutter overall, like to my speech. So the person that was interviewing me, RJ, who is still a good friend of mine up to this day, um, you know, he really put a lot of confidence in me. Um, you know, he essentially told me to just like be myself, and I think it's different for anyone out there that grew up like, with a stutter. You probably know this too. It's very different when you have a lot of eyes locked on you. That is not like good for me at all. Like, like if you were to put me on a podium right now in front of I don't know, like 50, 60 people, I would have a very hard time speaking. There are times where, like during the podcast, I have a hard time speaking. But there's an aspect of being a group fitness coach, being on a microphone, and everybody just kind of listening to your voice and not necessarily locking eyes with you. Um, that was really able to help me a lot. Um, so, you know, I gave Orange Theory a go. It was not an easy training for me, but I grew to love the community atmosphere. I grew to love, like all of the friendships that I made. Um, and it just became like way more than just a job for me. It really became a, know, lifestyle as a whole. And at that point, I was really, um, fix the mic. And at that point, I was really just in school, like just to get the, piece of paper that you get when you graduate. but I knew I didn't want to do like I didn't want to do anything else but be in the industry as a whole. I knew that all I wanted to do in my life was be somewhat involved in uh, fitness. Like it was a huge part of my life. Obviously, being a college athlete. Um, so I was essentially doing Orange Theory full time while also going to school. Um, I became the head coach of Orange Theory in Hewlett, uh, Long Island, just outside of Queens. And I started in January. No, I'm sorry. I started in around January, February, I want to say. And we had our 1 year party. That's how I know, because it was a brand new studio. And then the next March after that, boom, COVID hit, right? It was March 2020, like the pandemic hit. And that was huge. Everyone thought that it was just going to be a 2 to 3 week thing. And then, 2 weeks became a month, a month became 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, etc. And I remember, so it was March when the pandemic hit. And then I remember in June of that year, so June 2020, one of my best friends, Vinny, he approached me about wanting to, move down south. And, I am not going to lie to you, like that was never a thought in my mind. Um, I had never thought that I was going to leave back home, Nassau County, Long Island. Never thought I was going to leave there, you know, because you have all your friends, and I was really built on, going back to my Orange Theory there. I really missed all the members. I really missed the people. I really missed working. Um, so I told him that I was just going to go down to Charlotte with him just to visit. Um, so we took a 3-day trip down here. And it just so happened that about 2 weeks before our trip, I saw that an Orange Theory, it was a head coach job that was opened up in Chapel Hill. So I applied, and this is how I knew I was going to come down here to Raleigh. I applied, and I got a call back probably within like an hour, I want to say. I did an over-the-phone interview, and they asked me when I was coming down. I gave them the dates, and they were really forthcoming in wanting me to go, coach a group class. I coached a staff workout in COVID with Vinny. We drove up for the day, and all of the people down here with Orange Theory were just like absolutely awesome. They were just like the greatest people. And I knew that I didn't even want to go back to Charlotte. I knew that this was where I wanted to be. It really felt like home. So I go back home, and I have a conversation with my mom and dad, and like the rest of my family and friends, and I told them I was moving. I told them I was moving, and I was not going to turn back. This was, I think, July, after I had made a final decision. And our Orange Theory back on Long Island opened back up in August. So I coached when we opened again. It was absolutely insane. We had masks, everything on it. So I coached back home until I moved down south here. The move-in date, I moved September 18th, 2020. And I went right to work at Orange Theory, Raleigh Midtown, the next day. And ever since then, North Carolina, Raleigh, specifically, has been my home. Absolutely love it down here. It's a great place to not only live, it's a great place to meet people. There's a lot of people that move to Raleigh every single day. And at the same time, like when I became the head coach of Orange Theory Midtown, it really did feel like home for me. I absolutely loved my time there. I loved all the members. I loved all the staff I worked with. I met my best friends in Raleigh in Orange Theory, but I always knew I wanted more. I think the dream of opening up Empire came when I started to feel a little bit trapped in like the corporate group fitness world. I didn't really feel like I was able to be my true self. There was a lot of times where I really felt trapped, and like there was a point where I was not sure if I could do this full time for like the rest of my life, right? The pay wasn't really where I wanted it to be. Like the benefits weren't really where I wanted it to be. So I started exploring. Hey, like what can I do that's my own, right? And I'll never forget this. This is how I knew I wanted to always be in the fitness industry. There was a member I had in Orange Theory who approached me one night, and he gave me his card and he said, "Hey, like, what's your long-term plan?" And I said to him, I was like, "Honestly, I have no idea." And he gave me his card and he told me to watch the link to the video on the back of it. And I think it was an insurance agency, and it was one of those agencies where you were able to essentially make like uncapped income. So he offered me to go a day with him out, on the job and stuff like that. So I went on the job with him um, on like a cold winter morning, suit and tie. And I left in the middle of the day because like I just knew that that wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be. Um, and it just did not feel like, you know, something that I wanted to do. So I couldn't wait to get back to Orange Theory that night. I coached my classes that night and I said, hey, like this is my realm, right? Like this is my atmosphere. This is where I really truly need to be. Um, but as time went on, and this is, I want to say like 2020-ish, I'm sorry, like late 2021-ish, winter around. So I'd been down there for like a year and a half. Um, you know, I I stayed with Orange Theory for a while, and then I really started to look for my own place. I would say I had a really good opportunity in the summer of 2023, and it wound up not being the right spot. Now, to put this into context, right? Um, Empire Training Academy has over 4,000 square feet of space. The space that I was about to sign a lease for back in 2023 was about 2,100 square feet. And I think I was so desperate to try to find a spot that I was just willing to sign, anything at that point. So I was about 2 or 3 days away from um, uh, getting a lease, and and the company just like they kind of went blank. Me and my broker were talking. We're like, hey, like what's going on here, right? No one's answering. My broker's like, hey, like just give it a couple days. This was around July 4th, so almost 2 years ago today. Um, and I was like, nah, like, it's not right, right? Like something's not right. Like we're 2 to 3 years away from getting a lease. So I drove. I'll never forget this. I drove my ass to the real estate office, and I was like, hey, where is this person, right? Why haven't I gotten a lease yet? What's going on here? And this is how you know everything truly happens for a reason. The real estate office told me that the person who was giving me the lease got fired. And he got fired 2 days before I was going to get a lease. It just goes to show you that the spot was not meant to be. And if I only had 2,100 square feet, I wouldn't have known what to do with anything, because at that point, I didn't think to take any measurements of, equipment. I didn't truly know what I wanted. I was just ready to get out of the corporate group fitness world and be on my own terms. And yeah, so that did not happen. And it was a blessing in disguise. I think it's really important to understand, like, you have to, of course, do what's best for you, but you have to make sure that all of the stars are aligning, right? So I go back to Orange Theory. I never left. I was just really doing some experimenting, but yeah, like I was about to sign a lease and then I was going to kind of put, my 2 weeks in or this and that. And um, at, at, at the time, I stepped down from being the head coach of Orange Theory Midtown back in March of 23. So yeah, this was around um, July of 23. But I was still at Orange Theory part-time. I had an online coaching business, had about 60 to 70 clients that I was coaching online. Like I was doing really well, bringing in some good money, really, making a name for myself. And I knew that this is what I had to do in order to establish a following outside of Orange Theory and everything like that. I had to make the business I have had look attractive to banks, for getting a loan and everything. So I left Orange Theory permanently after being part-time back in January of 24. And that's when things really started to pick up. I was still online coaching, but at this time I knew so badly I wanted to have my own place that I was working 4 other jobs. I was working at 45 in Cary, opening up for them almost every day of the week. I was there for about, I want to say, a month to 2 months. I was working at Sweat House downtown, which is one of my favorite spots ever. If you've never been to Sweat House, you got to go there. So I was working there. I was working at 45, and I was still coaching online. At this point, my online clientele started to really fade a little bit because I wasn't putting 100% effort into it anymore. Like I would be at my gym every single day, making content nonstop every single day to try to market myself online, and I did not enjoy doing that anymore. So, you know, the journey of opening Empire was really long, but it was so worth it. So I really nailed down a spot in June is when I signed the letter of intent. I'm trying not to get emotional talking about this because it's still very real to me, and it's something that a lot of people told me I was not capable of doing. For a lot of reasons, not mentally strong enough, not being willing to take challenges. I had my leadership questioned a lot of times. It really got to me. But back in June, there was a spot that it was opened up for a little while, but I thought it was going to be way too much rent. Um, I didn't realize that when you opened up a brick and mortar gym, right, it is expensive. Like you have a lot of expenses. You have rent, you have water, utilities, internet, payroll, obviously for staff, everything, right? You have a lot to pay for. So I thought the price of $11,000 of rent was way too high, and but it's right. It's right in the perfect spot. It's right in the heart of Raleigh. It's in the middle of a beautiful shopping center. So I signed my letter of intent, and for those of you who don't know the real estate world, it essentially means like they take it off the market, and now you have to come to lease terms, right? So this was a whole nother ball game. I had no idea like how to negotiate. Obviously, I guess I had a great broker, but I'm a person that really likes to take matters into my own hands, and like if something isn't getting done in time or like at the pace that I want it to get done, I'll just kind of like take over. So I knew that there was one thing. I knew that there was one thing that I did not want to pay rent for a certain amount of months. I think having the stress of paying rent very quickly, it can really get to you. So I essentially bargained for not having to pay rent for, I want to say for 5 months after we opened. Yeah, because I start paying rent next month. So yeah, it was 5 months of rent free, but they didn't give me any tenant improvement allowance, which is money toward like the build out of the gym. And at that point, like I didn't really care that much. And this was in the process of me still trying to get approved for my loan. That was a whole nother ball game. Getting approved for an SBA loan and I know I said this in the last episode, but you have to have some sort of income to get money from the bank, or you have to have like a lot of previous track record, right? Um, and like for those of you who don't know, I opened up Empire with a negative balance in my bank account. I was broker than ever, right? You could ask Erin, right, my wife. Shout out to her for just being the best. But I was broke. I didn't have any money because all of the money that I was making was going toward our lifestyle. I didn't have any savings, and I got told no a lot by banks, a lot by different, you know, landlords for spaces. I got told no a lot, but all it takes is one yes. And Bank of Oak Ridge, they are absolutely outstanding. So my bank lender, Andrew, who is actually an Empire member now, which is awesome. Um, he was able to take a chance on me because of the fact that I had a really good backing with my online business. Like, yes, it wasn't making great income at that time, but in the 2 years that it was doing well, it did really, really well. I showed him, what I did at Orange Theory, where I think after COVID, where I started down here, we were at like 600 members and we built it up to almost 1,000. Um, so I said to him, I was like, hey man, like if there's one thing I know how to do, it may not be exactly how to run a business, but like I know how to build a community and I know how to get people through the door. And having the online business, just to backtrack a little bit, having the online business, um, it was very humbling for me because it did really well. And, I have no problem getting, like really specific with numbers. It made over $225,000 in 2 years. And this was only 2 to 3 years ago. I had no concept of money. All of that money is gone. I got really greedy. I got a bigger apartment. I started playing golf almost every single day of the week. Um, my expenses went up for absolutely no apparent reason. I was going to nice dinners. I was doing this. I was doing that. Buying new clothes and shoes, and all that money was gone. And it really taught me a lot. It really taught me about how valuable the dollar is. So even then, not having any the money in the bank account, I was still able to get this loan. And the day I got approved was the same day that I signed my lease. So that was probably, up to this day, I would say top 5 greatest days of my life because I knew that my life was about to change. I knew I had the idea of Empire. I knew I had the vision. I knew there was no one in this area that had the concept. They still don't have the concept, no matter where you go. And I knew that my life was about to change. So I signed my lease. I hired a contractor, Sean, who honestly became like one of my very dear friends. We started construction in October. That's when we signed the lease. So yeah, it was about 2, 3 months of negotiating, and then I had to wait to get approval, like from my bank, for the loan. And then yeah, we started construction in October, and this place, it used to be a bike shop. Um, it looked completely different from what it is now, obviously. Um, I remember when, me, Eddie, and Dan, we would go film some content there, and it was just this one big box at the time, right after like the demolition and everything. It just really looked like an industrial box, right? But as we started the build out, is when everything was going on paper. Um, Obviously, you have a business plan, right? Which I was able to do. Got some help because if there was one thing about me a year ago, I had no idea how the hell to run a business. I still don't know how to run a business, but it's working. So we're just going off that. But I had no idea how to run a business. I knew that it was just kind of like basic math at that point. where, okay, if we get a certain amount of members in here by this time, right, by this time we'll have, like this amount of revenue. And my whole goal was just to essentially break even by the time I started paying rent. My goal was not to have over 400 members, like we do now, 5 months into this. I think my goal was 150 members by June. And we hit that after the first week. And I can't tell you enough how thankful I am for everyone that's walked through those doors. But anyway, getting back to, like the build out and everything, that's when the whole vision really started coming to life. When I started seeing everything being built, I knew exactly what I wanted the workout itself to be. I knew it was going to be different from any other group fitness concept. I knew people, you know, anytime someone walks into a group fitness facility, they always have the same goals, right? To build muscle, either lose or gain weight, right? Like depending on the goal, and just be a part of a community. And I knew that I was able to bring a workout, but also I've always been really good at, like bringing people together, and I knew that this was an opportunity for that. So as construction is going along, like we started to bring the equipment. I attacked all of like the Black Friday sales on Rogue and Titan and all of those other spots. At one point, all of the equipment was in my living room, and I have, I would say, a fragile, a hardwood floor. That's where all of the equipment was. And I remember one day I was walking in my living room, and like the floor kind of started, like to shake a little bit. So I was like, all right, we got to get all of this equipment out of here. But I knew I had to wait for the gym flooring to be put down. So we put that down, we put the turf down, and that's when I started to bring all of the equipment in, while it was still being built, of course. And it was just really cool to see every day. I was at Empire every single day while it was getting built, all day, all night. There were times where I would just go there just to chill and not necessarily see the place being built. Like it would be like 7 o'clock at night, and I would just go and I would just sit down in the middle of the floor on the cinder block. And if you're an Empire member, you know the cinder block I'm talking about. It still sits right by the door. It's like a pet because it was the only thing that was left in there after the demolition. And I sat on the cinder block right in the middle of Empire, and I would just think about what this place was going to be, exactly like what the vision was. But really, little did I know like how much it was gonna grow so quickly. We had a pre-sale of about 70 members before we opened. And I appreciate every one of those people. I truly appreciate, because they took a chance on Empire without even seeing a product. A lot of those people were people that I had previously trained in the past. And one thing I forgot to mention, we were doing workouts in the garage in the middle of the fall and in the middle of the winter, just to bring everyone together. It was Saturday mornings, and I would bring just all of like the dumbbells that I had in my house. We would go to the fourth floor of a parking deck, and we would do like a 30, 45-minute workout, and people would come. I mean, we would have like 20 to 25 people there, and it was a great time. And it really gave me hope as to what, not only like how many people were gonna be coming, but like the type of people, which is extremely important. You want to build a community with really like-minded individuals that all have very similar goals. It really creates a very motivating environment. So getting back to the cinder block, I would just be at Empire, writing my thoughts down, writing my programming down. And I knew in order to get people through the door when we first opened, I had to do something a little bit uncharacteristic. So, and a lot of people will say, oh, like, you're absolutely insane for doing this, blah, blah, this and that. I said, fuck it. We're just going to have a whole free week, right? So it was Monday to Friday. We opened our doors to the free week on January 27th, and it went until February 1st, which was the grand opening that following Monday. And I had a promo class filmed Wednesday night the previous week where I had a bunch of like my pre-sale members come, and we did a promo video, and like the video came out absolutely like insane. Like Dan and Eddie flew a like it was crazy. Like they flew a drone throughout the entire place while the workout was going on. Like it was absolutely insane. And Eddie's behind the camera right now. That's why I'm keeping that's why I'm laughing with him. But it was just so fun, and that's when I knew that like things were going to be okay, right? You have a decent amount of people that are already invested, but once we posted that video on Instagram, my phone did not stop like blowing up, and that was the craziest part to me. People wanting to get the last dibs of the founding membership, people wanting to book themselves into class for the free week. Like my phone that Thursday to Sunday before the free week did not stop blowing up. And that's honestly how Empire started. Um, when you have a product that works, when you have a community that works extremely hard, that has all become extremely close with each other, and I think that's like I think that's my favorite part of Empire is just like the people. It makes it so much easier to wake up every single day. Um, we now have a killer staff. I mean, all of our front desk, staff is absolutely awesome. We have an absolute like juggernaut of a coaching staff now who are absolute studs over there. Um, and yeah, I mean, uh, we just had a staff and member social at Bowstring where we had over 150 people come. I had to add another $1,000 to the tab because it ran out so quickly, which was an absolutely electric moment when that happened. And I got up on the stool and said, "We're not fucking leaving." But yeah, I mean, one thing I forgot to mention that was crazy was we had a little bit of trouble with like the permitting process. When Empire was about to open, something with the fire alarm system, and again, as I told you earlier in this episode, I'm not a person that likes to take no for an answer. So I was going to the city of Raleigh permitting every single day, asking them for approval. Like they could not get enough of me. Like I was an absolute menace with these people, and of course, like the nicest way possible. Um, we got our certificate of occupancy the day before we opened. The day before we opened, and I don't know if you guys remember, but in Raleigh, there was a really bad snowstorm that happened. Like I want to say a week in January, and it was like a Wednesday, and I was supposed to get my second to last inspections on that day, and people weren't going to work because of that, because of the snowstorm. So I literally thought to myself, I was like, of course, a fucking snowstorm is going to prevent me from opening, and it never snows in Raleigh. But Thursday, Friday came, and if you're if you're good to people, if you are nice to people, they will take care of you. So like shout out to the Raleigh inspectors because they came and yeah, like I literally got my certificate of occupancy the day before we opened. Otherwise, I would not have been able to open, and it would have been a huge like buzzkill. Like it was absolutely insane. I did not sleep for days, weeks because of that. Like my blood pressure was so high. It was insane. But yeah, I mean that's honestly what the full story of Empire is. Obviously, there's like there are some things that I didn't mention, just for time constraints, but that is really how Empire was established. You know, just a kid, like that had a dream of, not only working for himself, but bringing something to Raleigh that was not there. I think people really want to be a part of a group setting now. I think people really enjoy that environment. It's been really fun to see people coming in saying, I can't stand going to the gym by myself anymore. Like I want to be a part of this community. And the best part is like I don't have to sell. Like I don't have to sell anything, right? Like the people, the atmosphere, the workout, they all sell itself right now. And I think as of today, we're sitting at about 427 members, like just after 5 months of opening. And you know, if you're listening to this episode, or even if you're not listening to this episode, if you're a member or whether you've come in and chosen not to sign up, just like thank you for really like walking through those doors and just giving it a chance. It's awesome to see like how strong people have gotten. It's awesome to see all of like the friendships that are being built. That's honestly like the best part for me, and it never feels like work. Um, so that's essentially like the full story, right? It's if there's anyone out there that wants to do something like along the same lines, if there's anyone out there who always had a vision and just doesn't know how to go about it, the best piece of advice I could just say is just start. Start and you will figure out the rest, right? I truly feel like the people that don't succeed in this stuff are the people that know how to run a business but don't have the vision for it. Everything else is really teachable. If you have the vision for the business, if you have the vision for what you want to build, everything after that is 100% teachable. And like that's what I'm going through right now. Like I still have no idea how to run a business, right? But it's all teachable and things that you're able to like figure out. So my best advice to anyone out there is just to start. It's extremely scary. It's not normal if it's not scary, but you just have to start, then everything else is gonna fall into place. So I'm extremely excited for what's to come. I'm extremely excited like for the future. We have a lot of good things planned. So thank you for tuning in to episode 2, and I look forward to the next episode. So thank you all very much.